So good morning, Ari. How are you?
Good morning to you, Andrew. Very good. I'm here in Provence, and weather is beautiful. And I got in Finland. It's maybe not exactly the same this morning.
Not exactly the same. It's been a bit wet. We've got the rain falling now, which is clearing the snow, which is great. So, yeah, looking forward to spring getting into full bloom.
But I still love Finnish spring because something even violent about it. Because after long winter and spring cannot be very long at all because otherwise it leaves no space for summer. So it's a very violent transformation.
Exactly. But yeah, we do have 4 seasons, that's for sure.
And that is for sure. Exactly.
But
some of that winter time is good to be here in Provence.
Absolutely. But listen, I got some questions for you.
Yeah, okay.
We've been asking various people, did they have any advice for Jari-Matti? I looked around in your career. You didn't, let's say, jump around between cars and teams quite so much. And of course, it was quite different back in those days in terms of the team structures and so on. But what advice would you give to a driver like Jari-Matti joining a big new team these days and trying to settle in, especially with a driver like Seb Ogier already well established? Any thoughts?
Well, first of all, I like Jari-Matti a lot. I've told the story before, but there was I don't know, 6-7 years ago, a local Finnish paper, daily paper, called me and asked what do I think of Jari-Matti, and that must have been at the time when he just went to Malcolm Wilson's team, a 14. And I said, although I see a lot of myself in him, I still think that his future will be, brilliant. despite that, I see a lot of myself in him. So I because in a way I can identify myself with him because he has, he has that raw speed. He has always had that absolute raw speed. There's no question about it. And yet he has he has not been able to, transform that raw speed into good results. Yeah. And yes, he has, but I mean, there have been ingredients to have more good results than what he has had, in fact. And so he has made same kind of mistakes like I used to make. So therefore, I sympathize with him, and I know what that pressure he has. And I always, when I see him on the rally or outside, when we sometimes have a telephone conversation, I just try to make him, to relax him and say that, well, just when the beginner stage, think that that's like the tire test. So tire testing session, and you have been already testing tires all morning, and then you're a little bit tired, then you have a light lunch and cup of coffee, and you really, that transforms you because obviously your sugar level in blood is high, etc., etc. But anyway, suddenly you feel so good, and instead of being tired servant, you actually are the maître, you are the boss, with full of energy and full of confidence. And I have said to Jari-Matti that, well, think that you're just at lunch, and this is a tire test. It's just a tire test. Just give out the best you have got, because it will come out. And that's what I always tell him. Well, of course, now with the Ogier, when he has done the year of testing and enormous mileage under his belt, obviously it takes Jari-Matti time to settle in, and there's a certain pressure. But always I have said that to Jari-Matti also, that it's a little bit like running in a forest. That when you run, you don't actually when you don't look down, you don't look where you put your feet. They will automatically find. You have to look forward, and your feet will automatically go to the right place. And that's what Jari-Matti has to do, because he's still a young guy. He has got everything what it makes to be a champion, or to be a champion several times. He just has to look now, forward enough, and then things like what happened in Colle Turini this year will not happen.
That's really good advice. Really good advice. So I was also looking around. Rally Portugal doesn't seem to have been a happy hunting ground for you, but have you got any happy memories of Rally Portugal at all?
I really do, and because I love that country and love Portuguese people. I've said that they are quietly aristocratic people. I've used this phrase, and what I mean by that is that it's a country with incredible long history. They were conquering and discovering our planet. I mean, long before we knew anything Finnish about civilization, and anyway, there's something so human about that country and about those people. There are not many arrogant people in Portugal, so I mean, I like that country a lot and those people a lot, and they're hardworking, kind people. And but the rally, the rally was the first foreign. I mean, after the Thousand Lakes and the RAC, then the first rally on the continent. The World Championship Rally was Portugal 77, and I remember how poor that country was, because that was just 3 years after that Orchidean revolution, when the young officers took the power from the dictator. And anyway, so I so vividly remember how I felt when I went there, and I was leading even that rally. I was leading, had the punks, was leading again, and really was clearly the fastest guy. And then I went off after the end of the stage. There was a flying finish, and such a short straight and a tight corner. I had not paid enough attention to that. I still remember there was a K left, 50 meters out of the flying finish. There was a tight corner, and I was sort of relaxed. And I went off the road on that corner 50 meters after the flying finish. And still I did the fastest time by 10 seconds, I remember, relatively short stage. Of course, now you can't do that sort of things anymore, but it was possible. And so I've only finished, would you believe, that was 77. I've only finished the rally once, 98, when I, 21 years later, when I stood in for Bruno Thierry. Bruno Thierry got his injured his back in the 4th team, and I stood in for him on that event, and then Kankkunen was my teammate, and I finally finished with Fergala. I finished 5th in that event, and that's the only time I finished in that event. But I've enjoyed. I've led it 81. I led it by 6 minutes, and I went off the road. Would you believe? I made some terrible mistakes, which hurt, and even now when I think about them. But that's what life is all about sometimes. And I'm very fond of that country and fond of that rally, and it has a special place in my heart. And nothing to do with the number of good results.
So your advice to Jari-Matti this morning, who's lying, I would have to say, it's always a dangerous thing, but let's say a fairly comfortable second place at the moment. He's mastered, or seems to have pulled away a little bit from Nico yesterday afternoon, and he was just holding steady with Seb yesterday afternoon also. So your advice is just stay on the road and hold on to second place, or flat out always win?
No, exactly. It's to look far ahead, to be relaxed, and say that this is a comfortable position. And of course, in that position, you have to push, but you know that you don't have to. You don't have to go crazy. So just relaxed. Once again, having had a bite to eat and feeling good, and I'm in a good team, and the wins are the pipeline. Maybe not on this event yet, but very soon. That's the way to do it, and then it comes automatically, because Jari-Matti has got all what it takes to do well.
Okay. So, change the subject slightly. So how do you follow rallying these days? Is it all on phone calls and people telling you what's happening, or are you tuning in to WRC.com and listening to the radio? Or
no, I don't listen to that radio. In fact, I'm not really a nerd, or not at all. In fact, and I looked at the internet. I looked at the States Times. I looked at the rally site, and of course there are. Sometimes my son Kim is in the event. I hear something from him, and Max keeps me updated, and or I call somebody, or somebody calls me. Before this event, I called Suados Passos, who is my friend since '77, since my first trip to Portugal, and he's actually effectively more or less running this race. I think luck of the course, whatever he runs Portuguese rally. Friend of mine, so I speak to him, and he calls me, and so, I mean, just through human contacts mainly.
Okay, so I think as we said on the test last year, actually, so it's not about watching the internet to know how Jari-Matti's doing. You have to call his mum, and that's what.
Exactly, yes, and Jari-Matti still owes me a big dinner at Lehtovaara, you know, at that very old-fashioned and very good Finnish restaurant near Sibelius Monument, Lehtovaara. I don't know if you know it, but he's got excellent meat and it's old-fashioned restaurant, and so actually we have been now talking about for the last 2 years that we go there for meal, and we still haven't got around to it.
Okay, I'll remind him.
Yeah, you remind him, yes.
Well, thanks a lot. Just one more question before we close.
Yeah.
So since you've been sort of active in European politics and whatnot, and then you ran for the presidency of the FIA, what's next for Mr. Vatanen? Is it working on the winery in Provence and sitting in the sun and testing your product, or have you got something else in mind?
That sounds very nice picture you are painting, and yeah, would you believe? Yes, a couple of days ago I went to Avignon, and because the lady who is part of the French bureaucracy and more or less allows or doesn't allow the new wine planting is there, so I went to see her, and no, she showed me initial green light. So because actually we are planning to plant some more wine. So yes, so it's very much agricultural related things, but not completely. I mean, obviously my heart is always in rallying and will be, although I don't have really a direct. Well, yes, I do. In fact, I mean now, the Estonian people gave me that very big and touch honor to be the president of the Motorsport Federation. I mean, about a month ago, and of course, so that will involve me again in a direct manner. And of course, I mean, my relations with Jardo is very good again in these days. It took a bit of a dent after the election, and we are back to normal now. And so I called him immediately to keep him informed and to keep him informed. And I said, "Look at John, I'm coming back to FIA by little door, but by very good door." And so I'm very I feel very how should I say profoundly touched by this request from Estonian people. It's a little country with still a lot of motorsport heritage, and they even used to have a big Formula factory in the Soviet times in Estonia. They produced little Formula One cars, and so for the little population they have lots of things, and so it's very good to be involved in their motorsport.
Absolutely, and I went over with Jari-Matti to Rally Estonia last year, and that was really well supported, really well organised event. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how it develops with a name like yourself at the top of the masthead.
Okay, well, we will see. I just try to mobilise the troops.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for your time this morning. I'll pass on all of those messages to Jari-Matti, and let's see how the rally unfolds during the course of this morning.
Exactly. No, it will unfold very well. No doubt at all. I believe in him.
Thank you.
Thank you.